these are the basics that we're going to need to make our dumplings. So, wheat flour. This is agar flour. I don't have enough of this to actually make anything with it. It's part rice flour, part tapioca, and it's to make these shrimp dumplings. But instead of that, I'm going to make a hot water dumpling. Water, eggs, and ordinary table salt. So for the prawns, you just need to take the head off, take all the shell off, make a little hole just at the back there, and then about the second line down, make another little hole with your toothpick and pull up, and you can take all that vein out. This is pork shoulder, and I'm going to mince it using the fine grinder plate. I'm just going to use the small manual grinder for this. So I've got my pork minced. Now I'm just going to roughly chop the prawns. I don't want them to be too small. About that kind of texture. I've chopped my shrimp and I've weighed it out at 176 grams. So now I need an equal amount of pork shoulder. So now add a little bit of salt and some sesame oil. Mix that up, and now you need to make a little patty out of it and just fry it and make sure that it tastes the way you want it to. If not, add more salt, add more sesame, add a bit of soy. With my pork, it's 120 grams, so I'm going to need roughly the same amount of kimchi. So now we've got our kimchi in the food processor, and just pulse it. You don't want it too smooth, it has to have some texture, but you don't need huge bits in there either. When it's an acceptable texture, put your pork in. Perfect. I've got some plain flour and some salt in the food processor. Turn it down to about half, and I'm going to put some boiling water in there. I haven't measured it because we'll know when it comes together. It needs to be boiling. Perfect. It is still quite hot, but it just holds together. Flour your work surface, and I'll break this into two actually, and you're going to make this into a log shape, roughly. It doesn't have to be perfect. So grab a knife, and now we're just going to make little discs, well, little shapes. And then grab your rolling pin and I'm just going to, it's way too much flour there, I'm just going to roll them to a rough circle. It's got to be quite thin. The dough is going to absorb water when it steams, so you don't want it to be too thick, because otherwise it's only just going to get thicker as you steam it. So then we grab a little bit of filling of our Hao imitation dumpling mixture, and traditionally these are pleated, but I can't do the pleats. Normally they're pleated sort of in that shape, so I'm just going to do the best I can. There we go. It's not beautiful, but that's kind of the shape that we're after. You can also use this boiled water dough to make Chinese pancakes for crispy duck. And you roll 2 equal sized balls, just flatten them out a little bit, and then you put a little bit of sesame oil between the two, quite a lot, flatten them out, press them together, and then you roll them out together until they're pretty thin. And then, when you've done that, you dry fry them in a frying pan. So I've fried my pancakes, and because the inner surface is oiled with sesame oil, and they just pull apart. And then you use stuff each one with a bit of duck and some chives and cucumber and hoisin sauce. Now we're going to make our egg dough. So you need 2 eggs. You can use this dough to make lasagna or spaghetti or tagliatelle or anything like that. And if you're going to use it for that, count 1 egg per person. There we go. So now we need some flour. And make a little well into it. Add a bit of salt. Put your eggs in. And then mix it up. After a couple of minutes mixing, you should have quite a stiff dough. You can get your hands in there now. So now we're going to need to roll it quite thin. Add a bit more flour if it's too sticky. I usually start with the rolling pin. You can do it all with the rolling pin if you want. The pasta machine does get it a bit thinner than I can manage with my rolling pin. So what I tend to do is just roll it out roughly first. And cut it into strips. Roll that out a bit and then put it through the pasta machine. Start with the largest setting and then go down to the smallest. Now you've got your sheet of pasta. You can use this for lasagna sheets, or you can cut it into strips as noodles or whatever. You can make ravioli with it if you want to do an Italian style pasta. What we're going to do is cut little rounds with this and put about a teaspoon of filling in. Kimchi juice just to seal it, and then just pinch it shut. Now with these ones, because the filling is quite wet, you have to either steam them straight away, or as soon as you can, or you can freeze them and steam them later from frozen. Otherwise the filling is just so wet that it's going to break down your pasta dough, which you don't want to do. I've also got this little tool, so you can use one end to cut out, then you put it on that side, put about a teaspoon of your filling in, a bit of juice around the side just to wet it so it'll seal properly, and then I'm going to cook these using my bamboo steamer. It's got 2 levels. There's water in the bottom. I'm going to put a piece of paper in. You can buy ones to fit your steamer, but This one doesn't fit mine. And then I'm going to put a layer of dumplings in, put the lid on, and leave it for about 5 or 6 minutes to cook. Another good way of cooking these dumplings is as pot stickers. So put a little bit of oil in a non-stick frying pan. And just put your dumplings in. I'm only going to do 2, steam the rest. And once that's fried a little bit, brown on the bottom, then you just put a little bit of water in and then put the lid on, and they will steam and fried on the bottom, and the rest of the top's going to be steamed. Okay, so these now are cooked on the bottom. So I'm going to put a little bit of water in. Warm water. Try not to shock my pan too much, and then leave that just to steam, and then all the water is going to evaporate out of there, and by the time that's happened then they'll be cooked. So these are cooked now, all the water's evaporated, the top is nicely steamed and the bottom's crunchy. So these are cooked now. What I'm going to do is just take them out, cool them off, and then I'm going to bag them up and put them in the fridge, and they'll be nice little snacks from the week. To heat them up, you can just put them back in the steamer, or you can microwave them, or you can just eat them straight away like this. If you can make them fresh and eat them straight away, you can freeze them and cook them from frozen.